Welcome to the PJ Hoop Podcast. I'm your host, PJ. And if this is your very first time checking out my podcast, first and foremost, I want to thank you for taking time out of your day. I promise you won't be disappointed. This is a basketball podcast for all basketball lovers. On my podcast, I like to cover the NBA, college, high school, and international basketball. And I also like to go over 4 different segments, week in and week out. The first segment being a segment I like to call PJ's Echelon. Now, in PJ's Echelon, it's just my power rankings. Understand that it's a progressive list because I'm a progressive man. I'm not a perfect man. So we'll talk about more criteria about that very here shortly. We'll kind of talk more about that. Another segment is a segment I like to call What's New. Now, What's New, I'm either ranting, giving you some type of NBA statistical history or some type of NBA news. Today in What's New, and even last week, I did something a little different. So, and what's new, if you haven't seen none of my season previews over last summer, I would highly recommend watching those. So what we're doing this week, and then next week is we're going to talk about some of the NBA lottery teams. This week, we're going to be talking about Philadelphia, New Orleans, and Brooklyn. Now, understand the 3 things that we're going to go over with each team. We're going to talk about draft fit. We're not using Cooper Flagg because I think he can fit seamlessly with any of these teams. So we're not going to waste time talking about him. We're going to talk about the team's contract situation, and then also we're going to kind of review some of their rookies/sophomores on those teams. Okay, so you're not going to miss out on what's new today. Another segment is a segment I like to call Games of the Week. Now, in Games of the Week, I'm going over games of some type of significance, games that I really enjoyed watching, or games that I'm looking forward to. Again, just like last week, this week we're just going to focus on games that we're looking forward to because we're almost at the end stretch of the season. So my opinion of games that I really liked, it's irrelevant. We may talk about games of significance, but today we're just going to focus on the schedule ahead, okay? So that's what's coming in Games of the Week today. My last segment is a segment I like to call In the Lab. Now, in the Lab, essentially I'm talking about today's NBA rookies. I'm talking about college or high school or international basketball. So those are the segments I like to go over week in and week out. I just want to let you guys know before I get started, this is being recorded April 4th at about 11 a.m., okay? My first segment is a segment I like to call PJ's Echelon. Now, in PJ's Echelon, again, understand this is a progressive list because I'm a progressive man. I'm not a perfect man. The criteria I like to use for my power rankings week in to week out, I like to use the team's strength of schedule, the eye test, statistically where the team sits, but then also the team's record. So this week, before we get started, I just want to let you guys know, I just told you it's a progressive list. But this week, most of these teams are going to be in the same spot, except there's one new team in the top 10. But most teams are going to be in the same spot because some of them had really weak schedules, and then some of them played teams that had injuries. So, again, if you've been following me, you'll notice, sometimes I won't move them, and that's because I don't like to make knee-jerk reactions, you know what I'm saying? I like to gather information, so when I do have those conversations with you guys in the comment section and even on other social media platforms, it's like, look, this is why I did X, Y, and Z, you know? And then usually people are like, oh, okay, that makes sense, you know? So, yeah, I just want to let you guys know ahead of time as we go into this. But just remember, this is being recorded April 4th at about 11 a.m. All right, so the first team on our chopping block, this team is 64-12, and that is the Oklahoma City Thunder. Oklahoma, right now, they're 64-12. Sorry, they're 64-12. They're third in offensive efficiency. They're first in defensive efficiency, and they're first in net rating. So they finished this season off 29-1 against the Eastern Conference with their only sole loss coming to the Cavs. They don't count. I thought they were going to count the play-in loss, but I guess they don't. They lost, obviously, to the Bucks in that. But anyways, they're 29-1 against the Eastern Conference, which is the best record against the opposing conference since 1970/71, basically when this really all started. They're currently tied right now with the 95 and 96 Bulls for the best net rating in NBA history at 13.4. They're on an 11-game winning streak, which is the longest in the NBA, and they're 20-2 since the All-Star break. Number 2, this team is 56-20, and that is the Boston Celtics. Boston right now, they're second in offensive efficiency, they're fifth in defensive efficiency, and they're third in net rating. They lost to Miami, but I didn't hold that over their head because Miami got hot and Boston was cold, so it happens. It's fine. I'm not holding that over their head. They're 32-7 on the road, which is the best record in the NBA on the road. Oklahoma is 29-7, so I guess it's pretty much basically the same. But yeah, Boston got the best road record. They're number 2 for me this week. Number 3. This team is 61-15, and that is the Cleveland Cavaliers. Cleveland, Right now, they're first in offensive efficiency, they're eighth in defensive efficiency, and they're second in net rating. They're 5-5 in their last 10 games, but they've also had key people be in and out of the lineup. They're fourth in net rating since the All-Star break, which they've somewhat cooled down a little bit because they were blazing going into January, man. They were on a burner. But I also feel like maybe some of their players are just gassed. Maybe they just have ran out of a little bit of energy, throughout this season. So I think they should probably start sitting players. I mean, for the most part, their seeding their seeding's pretty locked up. They're going to probably be the number 1 seed. So if I was them, I'll start sitting players personally. But number 4, this team is 46-28, and that is the Denver Nuggets. Denver, right now, they're 4th in offensive efficiency. They're 20th in defensive efficiency, and they're 9th in net rating. So I kept them at 4. Because they didn't have some of their key guys throughout this week. Obviously, Nikola Jokic had an amazing game against Minnesota. Since the All-Star break, they have a record of 11-11, but they've also dealt with quite a bit of injuries. So I didn't, like I said, kill them for that. But they're number 4 this week. Number 5, this team is 46-30, and that is the Los Angeles Lakers. LA right now, they're 13th. In offensive efficiency, they're 15th in defensive efficiency, and they're 14th in net rating. So obviously, yes, they lost to the Warriors, but they've also had solid wins over this last week over Houston and I'm trying to think the other, Memphis. They beat Houston and Memphis over this last week. So I just kept them at 5. They're 14-10 since the All-Star break, but also they've dealt with injuries as well. This last week and a half, in my opinion, is going to be very, very interesting for the Lakers. They got the 3rd toughest remaining schedule. They play the Thunder twice. They play the Rockets once, and then also Luka returns to Dallas next, I think, Wednesday. Either next Wednesday or Thursday, he returns to Dallas. Number 6, this team is 48-28, and that is the New York Knicks. New York right now, they're 5th in offensive efficiency. They're 13th in defensive efficiency, and they're 8th in net rating. Jalen Brunson should be returning sometime this upcoming week, so that'll be really good news for them. They got some pretty important games next week. They play Boston, Detroit, and Cleveland next week, so hopefully Jalen Brunson's back in time because I really want to see this team, see how they really are if they're fully healthy with everybody, including Mitchell Robinson, in the lineup. Number 7, this team is 50-27, and that is the Houston Rockets. Houston right now, they're 11th in offensive efficiency, they're 4th in defensive efficiency, and they're 4th in net rating. So shout out to my guy Reed Shepherd. He went on a burner against the Jazz. He shot 5 for 7 from 3, and under, I think, was it like 10 minutes he did it. I've been talking about him, so I've been high on Reed Shepherd. You can literally go back to my very first episode. It was a pre-draft episode. Mind you guys, the audio was really bad and the camera quality is not that good, so I'm sorry ahead of time. But I talked about Reed Shepherd a lot then. For me, he was my favorite guard coming out of Kentucky between him and Dillingham. He was my favorite. And I even said during my Rockets season preview and throughout this year, I feel he would be a better starting option, in my opinion, than Fred VanVleet. And I really hope next year he really gets that opportunity to really shine because I really think he could open up this offense quite a bit. But anyways, I don't want to keep talking about him. I just wanted to show him some love because, like I said, I'm a fan of Reed Shepherd. So they also got the toughest schedule remaining in the NBA, and they got to play the Thunder, the Warriors, the Clippers, Lakers, and then Denver in that order. Which is, I'm excited though. I'm excited to see how Houston handles this home stretch against all these. This home stretch, as in, the season's almost over. Not like literally all these games are at home, but I'm just interested to see how they handle that. Number 8, this team is 45-31, and that is the Indiana Pacers. Indiana right now, they're 7th in offensive efficiency, they're 14th in defensive efficiency, and they're 13th in net rating. They got blitzed by the Thunder. No shame in that. A lot of teams get blitzed by them. Then their next 2 games, they beat 2 lottery teams. They got the 3rd best record in the Eastern Conference against teams above 500 at 16-15. They're number 8 for me this week. Number 9, this team is 44-32, and that is the Los Angeles Clippers. Los Angeles right now, they're 18th in offensive efficiency, they're 3rd in defensive efficiency, and they're 7th in net rating. They're 8-2 in their last 10. Since January 1st, they're 5th in net rating, and they're 2nd in defensive rating. Number 10, this team is 45-31, and that is the Golden State Warriors. Golden State right now, they're 16th in offensive efficiency. They're 7th in defensive efficiency, and they're 10th in net rating. So no doubt in my mind, I do think Golden State should be higher on my list than 10. But also, I didn't want to, again, like I just told you guys, some of these teams earlier had injuries and they had easy schedules. So I didn't want to have no knee-jerk reaction on catapulting Golden State to like 6. You know what I'm saying? So I just want to ease them into the top 10. You know, they've been knocking on my door for a while now. But yeah, so right now, for just this week, they're 10th. I'm probably sure next week next week I will feel a little bit more comfortable moving them up higher as I watch, give these other teams another week and give them Golden State another week as well. But anyways, they're 10th in net rating since January 1st. Since the All-Star break, they're 17-4, and they got the second best net rating. Obviously, they've played a lot of lottery teams, and they've also played teams who had a lot of injuries during this stretch as well. So you got to take that with a grain of salt. That's also why I have not put them in my top 10 sooner, is because I understood the magnitude of what they were doing. You know what I'm saying? I understood their schedule. I understood who they were playing. They got the 12th toughest remaining schedule left. Notable games, they played Denver tonight, which will be a second night of a back-to-back for Golden State. They beat the Lakers last night. Then they played the Clippers, and they got the Rockets left. Teams on my bubble, I got the Memphis Grizzlies, Detroit Pistons, Timberwolves, and the Milwaukee Bucks. You guys let me know down in the comment section below who's in your top 10, and then who also do you have on your bubble. So my next segment is a segment I like to call What's New. Now, in What's New, essentially, I'm giving you guys some type of NBA news that happened over this last week, or some type of NBA statistical history that was made last week, or it's just me ranting. This week, we're actually going to take time and talk about some of the NBA lottery teams, get us ready for that. If you haven't seen none of my team season previews, I would highly recommend going back and watch those. I did those during the summer. They're organized by division. So if you just want to watch your favorite team or teams that you really like, I would highly recommend going to check those out. They're very insightful and they're very in-depth. But that's kind of give you a preview of what we're getting ready to talk about today. So today we're going to talk about the Pelicans, Brooklyn, and Philadelphia. We're going to talk about 3 main things about those teams. We're going to talk about draft fits. No, we're not using Cooper Flag because Cooper Flag can fit with any of these lottery teams, in my opinion. We're going to talk about these teams' contract situations, and then we're going to check in on some of their rookies/sophomores and just see how they've been doing. Okay? My first team on the chopping block is actually the New Orleans Pelicans. So New Orleans, for me, draft fits for this team. I like Kasparas Yakachonis, my boy Yak. I like Igor Demon. I like him, and then also like Con Knipple for this team. And I chose those 3 players simply because I think New Orleans, I think they need more playmaking. Obviously, DeJounte Murray is going to be coming off of his injury. CJ McCollum, well, I'm going to talk about CJ pretty soon here, but CJ McCollum only got 1 year left on his deal. So I think that's why I picked Yakachonis. I picked Demon. And then also I put Con Knipple here because you can always use more shooting. Can't go wrong with more shooting around Zion and in the crew. So, yeah, that's why I picked those players. Contract situations. So we got CJ, Herb Jones, and Zion. They're all extension eligible this summer. Brandon Boston got a club option. Bruce Brown's a free agent. Jeremiah Robinson, Earl, he is a free agent. So let's check in on some of the rookies and sophomores. So Missy, he's been solid for them in my opinion. I just don't know if I want that kind of big man next to Zion long term. I think Zion would benefit from having like a Brook Lopez next to him. And obviously not Brook Lopez what he is now, but a player like that, a big that can protect the rim and that can stretch out to the 3, I think is ideal for them. Luckily, they got one on their team that's a little interesting. I think Carlo, I can't pronounce his last name. He's their rookie. He's 20? He's an older rookie. He's from overseas. I think he's like 24, 25 already. He might be older than that, but he's a stretch big. So I'm not saying exactly him next to Zion is going to be great, but I'm saying a player of that mold I think would fit better with Zion if they're still wanting to build around Zion. Who knows? They may get the first pick or the second pick and, decide to go with one of those rookies and get rid of Zion. Who knows what they're going to do. But I like Misi as a player. Like I said, I don't know. Ideally, I don't like him next to Zion per se. He might just be a good backup big if you're going to keep Zion. But I like what I've seen out of him. He has a really high motor. I liked him too at Baylor. And I just kind of talked about Carlo. I think next year he'll probably be a little bit better. Sorry, I've been up since 3. But I think Carlo will be a little bit better probably next year once he gets accustomed to the NBA speed and everything. Jordan Hawkins somewhat has kind of had a disappointing year in my opinion. He's had a sophomore slump, but then also he's dealt with injuries, so I'm hoping next year he bounces back. The next team is the Philadelphia 76ers. So draft fits for them. I wrote Derek Queen or Kamen Malawach, depending on what they want to do with Joel Embiid. So that's why I put those 2 players. But if they do keep Joel, I think VJ Edgecombs would be a really good player next to Maxey. Between Maxey, Paul George, Joel, I like VJ. I like VJ for this team. He's a 2-way player. I contemplated players like Dylan Harper. I contemplated players like Ace Bailey. But the reason why I didn't pick those players is because those are players that need the ball in their hands, And obviously, you see who's on Philadelphia. Joel Embiid's going to take a bulk of the shots. Paul George is going to get his, 15 to 16 shots. Maxey's taking 20. You got Jared McCain coming back next year. He's going to get, 15 shots. So they don't need more offensive players. That's why I went with VJ, because VJ got that two-way ability, And God forbid if you do want to get off of if you do want to get off of Joel Embiid, you will have a backcourt of Maxey or McCain, depending on what you do with that there. And then you will still have VJ and, So, yeah, that's why I went with VJ. Contract situation, Kelly Oubre, Eric Gordon, Andre Drummond all have player options. Quentin Grimes is a restricted free agent. They got Kyle Lowry and Yabusele are free agents. Justin Edwards, Jared Butler, and Lonnie Walker, they got team options. Ricky Council and Adim, they have non-guaranteed contracts. So let's check on some of their rookies and sophomores. Jared McCade was rolling before he got hurt. I really was proud of Jared McCade. I'm a Duke fan. So I was really mad last year. Duke didn't run their offense more through him. For some odd reason, they thought Filipowski was better. That's another conversation for another day. But I was really proud of Jared McCade. I was happy that they drafted him, and I was happy that he performed the way he did. I would not start him with Maxey. I don't like that combination at all. I think you're gonna have to have one of them come off the bench, which obviously is gonna be Jared McCain, and I think that's okay. He could potentially. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. He might be on my 6th man of the year ballot going into next year. I'm not even gonna dub to you guys. He might be, depending on what they do in the draft and free agency. He might be on my 6th man of the year ballot. Another player that I thought might have been a steal is Justin Edwards. Justin Edwards went to Kentucky. He was a highly rated player out of high school. I think he was the 3rd or 4th rated player coming out of high school, if I remember correctly. He just didn't really pan out at Kentucky, but he's been pretty solid so far in the NBA. Obviously, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how he performs when he's around winning basketball and winning players. You know what I'm saying? And see, hopefully these stats that he's been putting up have not been empty calorie. I've liked glimpses of things he's shown me. I think he potentially could be a part of the rotation next year. So I just want to give them some love for drafting him. And then their big man. It's so funny. I literally wrote this dude's name down. Like, I wrote obviously all this stuff down days ago, but he just had a really big game last night. Adim. He's from UCLA, if I remember correctly. He's a big. He literally just had a big game last night. He had 28.6 rebounds, 2 steals, and 3 blocks against Giannis and company. And Giannis obviously had a monster game as well. But yeah, he might be a backup for Joel moving forward, Last team is the Brooklyn Nets. So Brooklyn, draft fits, in my opinion, for Brooklyn is Yakachonis, Dylan Harper, and Ace Bailey. Their contract. So the reason why I picked those 3 players is because they need a point guard. Cam Thomas is not a point guard. I think he's a shooting guard, just an undersized shooting guard. D'Angelo Russell's out of there. I don't think D'Angelo Russell's going to stay there. I don't want to talk about where I think he's going to go in this video per se, but I have somewhere where I think D'Angelo Russell's probably going to end up if another dominoes falls. But yeah, I would do for them. I think Yakachonis, Dylan Harper, Ace Bailey to me would be the picks I would pick for them. Contract situations. D'Angelo Russell and D'Anthony Melton, they're free agents. Zaire Williams, Cam Thomas, Day'Ron Sharpe, restricted free agents. Keon Johnson, Jalen Wilson, and Drew Timme, they have team options. And then rookie/sophomore review, Noah Clowney. He's showing me things that I've liked. Power forward, can stretch out to the three-point line. Plays okay defense. Maybe somebody he might be able to become a actual normal rotational player later down the line. I'll just have to keep watching him closely. But I like his touch. He shoots I think about 80% from the free throw line. close to it. And he had a pretty big game. I watched him live when Brooklyn played Portland. I watched him live, and he did some things that I kind of liked. So show some love to him. But yeah, so those are the 3 teams this week. Next week we'll do the next 3. I don't know if we're gonna get to all the lottery teams because obviously we're getting ready to start talking about the playoffs and stuff. But yeah, you guys let me know down below if you like that I did something like this. This is, like I said, I did it last week. Last week we did the top 3 teams. So we did Charlotte, the Wizards, and I'm blanking. I'm missing a team. Charlotte, the Wizards, and I can't think about what other team is. I can't think right now who the other team was. Was it Toronto? No, it wasn't Toronto. I forgot. Oh, the Jazz. That's who it was. But yeah, so we did those teams last week. And next week we'll do because we just did. So we did 1 through 6. Obviously, we did 3 last week, 3 this week. So we'll do the next 3 after this. But yeah, you guys let me know. Oh, that means next week it'll be the Spurs, the Blazers, and the Raptors, I believe, is the 3 teams that are next. But yeah, you guys let me know down in the comment section below what's new. And if there was any news that you guys wanted to share, let me know now in the comment section below. My next segment is a segment I like to call Games of the Week. Now, in Games of the Week, I'm talking about games of some type of significance, games that I really enjoyed watching, or games that I'm looking forward to this upcoming week. So I'm just trying to get us ready for the playoffs, getting us ready for the off season. So this week, and honestly, probably for the rest of the year, we're just gonna, at least until the playoffs start, we're just gonna talk about games that we're looking forward to. We only got about a week and a half left of the NBA season. So I just want to give you guys some games that I'm going to be paying attention to this upcoming week. So starting with today, the Rockets play the Thunder. And then we got the Mavs and the Clippers. Hopefully the Mavs are going to be healthy. I don't know if Anthony Davis is going to necessarily play tonight. I don't know if he's playing tonight or not. I know Derek Lively's not playing just because of injury management. But that was one of the games I was going to be looking forward to. So Sunday we get the Thunder versus the Lakers. Sunday we also get Pacers Denver. Sunday we also get Rockets Warriors. Tuesday we get Celtics Knicks. Tuesday we get Lakers Thunder. Kind of a mini series actually, because you get the Thunder and the Lakers. We get them Sunday and then we skip it and we get them Tuesday, kind of like the playoffs a little bit. Wednesday we get Lakers at Mavs. Luka returns to Dallas. Wednesday, we get Heat Bulls. Could potentially affect the play-in seeding, so that's why I put this game. And then we got Rockets Clippers Wednesday. There was also another game happening tonight. Oh, Denver and the Warriors play tonight, but I didn't put that on my chopping block because it's the second night of a back-to-back for Golden State. So, I didn't want to put that there, But you guys let me know down in the comment section below what games are you guys looking forward to this week, and even what games did you like this last week. My last segment is a segment I like to call In the Lab. Now, In the Lab is me talking about today's NBA rookies, international, college, or high school basketball. A couple days ago, there was the McDonald's All-American game. Darren Peterson and Cam Boozer ended up winning co-MVPs during that game. So next week, I believe it's next Friday or Saturday, it's the Nike Hoop Summit. I will be attending the Nike Hoop Summit this year. I'm very excited. I've gone a couple times over the last couple years, but this one should be really good because there's a lot of good international kids that's going to be on the world team, but then also Team USA stacked. What I'll do is I'll leave it right over here in the corner for you guys to you guys can look at the rosters again. I did it a couple weeks ago when they first announced the teams, but I'll leave it up in the corner for you guys to look at for a second while I give me some water. Okay, so and also if you notice some of these names, if you've been following me since last summer, a lot of these kids' names on this list, I've talked about a lot of them already. But if you haven't, you can go ahead and check out those old episodes, or if not, today's the day. Today you can keep following and roll with me because, like I said, I'm a forward thinker, so I like to do that kind of stuff. But anyways, next week or the week after, I'll probably give you guys, my opinion on how the Nike Hoop Summit went, players that really stood out to me live in person. But yeah, so let's talk about some of these college kids. We're going to check in on some more of our, so if you, again, this is your first time checking out my episode, for the last couple weeks before March Madness started, I ended up giving you guys about 10 to 15 kids that I was going to be keeping my eyes out for during the tournament, just to be watching, see how they perform in the tournament. And every week as they've gotten eliminated, I've talked about them. Last week we talked about about 4 or 5 of them that got eliminated last week. This week, we're going to talk about 3 more that got eliminated. The first being Darian Williams. He's a 6'6" junior at Texas Tech. So during the tournament, he averaged 21 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, 3 personal fouls, 1 turnover. He shot 43% from the field, 23% from 3 on 6.5 attempts. He shot 80% from the free throw line on 4 attempts. I like him as a second rounder. I think he'd be a 3-and-D second rounder potentially. But yeah, that's where I kind of project him at. Another player is his teammate, JT Toppin. He's a 6'9" sophomore, Texas Tech. During the tournament, he averaged 19 points, 11 rebounds, 1 assist, 2.5 blocks, 2 personal fouls, 1 turnover. He shot 59% from the field, 40% from 3 on 1 attempt, 33% from the free throw line on 2 attempts. To me, JT Toppin, he projects to be a backup big in the league. I think he's a second rounder as well. A team might want to take him late in the first, but he projects as a second rounder in my opinion as well. Lastly, the last player is LeBaron Filan. He's a 6'4" freshman from Alabama. He averaged 8 points, 3.5 rebounds, 5.5 assists, 1 block and 2 steals, 1.5 personal fouls, 1.5 turnovers. He shot 38% from the field, 45.5% from 3 on 3 attempts, 83% from the free throw line on 3 attempts. To me, he's somebody, and I've said this before, he's just a player that every team needs. He does a little bit of everything. He's gonna give you his all. I do think he is a first rounder. He's not a lottery pick. I wouldn't say he's a lottery pick, but would I take him, from let's say the 19th pick to the 30th pick? Yeah. At that point, I think that's his window is how I envision him. Well, that is all. But actually, I want to give you guys my final 4. So my bracket has been. I should have taken a screenshot and shown you guys, and maybe I will. Maybe I will do that. Maybe I'll take a screenshot. But my bracket, I think, is like 90-something% right, which is pretty great because I had people kind of getting on me about my bracket, about having all 4 number 1 seeds in the final 4. They was like, oh, that's no fun. I'm not trying to be fun. I'm trying to be right. At the end of the day. And I felt that those were the 4 best teams in college basketball. I was looking at my bracket, and maybe next year what I'll do, maybe I'll do a live stream where I'm lively, actually talking about each matchup, live. So you guys can really see me talk. But I was just going through my bracket, and I'm like, I don't see this team losing to this team. And even if you go back and watch my March Madness episode that I just did a couple weeks ago, you'll see I told you guys where I felt these teams could have hiccups and lose, but I just couldn't find it in me to pick against them. And I'm happy I didn't. I'm happy I didn't let outside noise get the best of me because I do believe these are the 4 best teams in college basketball. But anyways, I want to thank you guys for taking time out of your day to check out my podcast. You guys have a wonderful weekend, man. And PJ is out.